Hey friends, I hope that you are having an excellent day. I'm in my Tower Bower studio and I'm working on, I emptied out another scrap box. So I'm working on trying to kind of organize this stuff and get it into some semblance of order where I can know what I have or look quickly through what I have. And honestly, y'all, a scrap box is just not working for me. I tend to, I don't know what I do, but anyway, it's just not working. I can't find things and I think I have something and I don't. And I'm a very minimalistic kind of person. I don't like a whole lot of stuff, so the scrap box is not working for me. What I think will work for me is a box book that I made several years ago using a Jennibellie technique, and I've never finished this book. I thought it was really pretty when I did it, but I never exactly found a use for it. So I dug it out today and thought that it would be kind of a perfect receptacle for a whole bunch of scrap papers. The first thing that I want to do is kind of go through this mess on my art desk and make signatures. When I've had a couple questions about making signatures. When I make a signature, I am not very exacting about it. I just nestle things together that look good and that I like, and you know, it's kind of therapeutic to just go through your stuff and start giving it a crease and start nestling things together. So I've got one signature already done, and you can see that it is just a bunch of scrap papers, but they're pretty, and the scrap box, I just tend to lose stuff in a scrap box. So this way I can grab my little box and I can look through it for painty papers or something cool that I like. So first signature is done. When I finish a signature, I like to bookend it with something that's kind of quite big, okay? And honestly, when you start binding this thing together, you know, you need something, you need a place to nestle all your paper signatures and all your papers into the signature. So I am going to sort through this pile, make a few more signatures, and then I'll be back and I'll show you how I'm going to bind this in my little box book. I will be right back, you guys. Okay, I have my signatures finished, and as you can tell, they're extremely haphazard and extremely not neat, but that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for organization. I'm going for a place to put stuff so I can see it when I'm working on things. So right now I have 4 signatures. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and they're all haphazard. I can kind of look at the the girth of them here, and I figure that, you know, they'll all fit kind of snugly in my journal here. I'm not concerned about that this journal is too big for these signatures. Again, this isn't pretty. This is like a way to organize your stuff so you know what you have. So, and because this is an expandable project, I will put more things in this little box book. So there we go. We have our 4 signatures. I did take out the really small strips like this. I did use some in here, but I took a whole lot of them out because I think that I'm going to use a separate book for just these awesome paper strips. I just love them, and I use them for belly bands and things like that. So I have a lot of uses for painty paper strips. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to bind these signatures into our little box journal. I'll be right back. Hey there, I'm ready to bind my signatures, and the first attempt of doing this did not work well. And I think it was because everything that I'm trying to bind was so small that I needed a hefty piece to hold everything all together. So what I did here was I took my signatures, and then I am going to slip them into a piece of, I think this turned out to be maybe 10 by 10 scrapbook paper. I'll measure that and let you know the exact dimensions of it. But I think that that's going to help me bind my Scrapbox book all together. I'm going to cut this off because this is going to kind of annoy me. Okay, there we go. All right. The first attempt of this did not go well. I don't know what it is, but I couldn't tie anything the way that I needed to get it tied, and I tried to use some embroidery floss, and that did not work at all. So I think that maybe my embroidery floss was old, and it just kept snapping. So I'm going to take a length of this yarn, and I'm going to do a double length, as a matter of fact, because now I'm just kind of paranoid about the string snapping. First thing that you're going to want to do is to put your string, or whatever you're using to bind with. You can bind with baker's twine or yarn or embroidery floss, I guess, if it's not old. I think that's what happened with mine. I guess it was just old and it just snapped when I tried to tie the signature into the book. So you've got your signature. Put your binding material in the middle. Remember, you want something kind of sturdy in the middle here. And then we're going to bind it in. This is never easy, but let's give it a go, because you do have to tug on it enough to make it snug, but you don't want it too snug that it's going to that it's gonna cut into your papers. So let's try it, y'all, and see what happens. Okay, this is usually about the time that the embroidery floss snapped, so thumbs up there. It's not snapped yet. This is so hard to do. I'm sure there's a trick to it. Jennibellie probably has a trick to it. To me, it's really hard. because I'm trying to hang on to this and trying to tie a knot. All right, let's see how that went. Oh, okay. Finally. All right. All right, that looks pretty good. That's what we want. We can kind of pull this down, and that will give us our first signature in the back of the book. All right. Wow. All right. Well, thank goodness that went well. Let's try one more. This is my big piece. Oh, thought I had lost my signatures, but I haven't. All right. This, okay, is the next signature right here. So there we go. And we're going to put this one in. Sorry, the fellow was leaving for a second. All right. Let's go for, I kind of am liking the yellow here. I might not have enough of it, and in that case we'll have to switch to something else, but that's cool too. Alright, now remember, I'm going to go from the middle. I'll flip this over like that, and then we're going to give it a tie. I promise I'll do something that looks a little prettier next time. This really isn't very attractive, but I made up my own storage. I didn't go to the store and buy something plastic, you know, like a plastic bin or whatever. I used what I had to create some storage for myself. Alright, there we go. That's the second signature. That is looking pretty good, y'all. I like it. I even like the funky yellow on the spine. Alright, let's grab another signature, and we'll put that in here like this. Alright, and we're ready to bind this one. Gosh, I hope I have enough of this because I kind of like it. I think it's nice to make up your own storage. You know, I use a lot of boxes and pizza boxes to store things, and I do have some plastic, but it's plastic that I inherited. I didn't buy it. I inherited some plastic shoe boxes from an organization. They were going to toss them, so I inherited them, and they're really useful to me. I use shoe boxes for some storage. I do buy sandwich meat, and that is, you know, that's plastic. That has resulted in storage for me, which is, you know, it's nice. But again, I shouldn't be buying any plastic at all. But you know, I mean, use what you have, right? It's the whole idea of everything. All right, I'm going to grab my last signature. Grab my last signature and put this one in one of my 10 by 10 cover things. Stick this one in as well. I do have some overhang here, and in this case I'm just going to trim this off. And I'll probably use those little trimmings for something. Okay, there we go. One more. And then I will add a closure as well. You do have to get these things even, y'all. And there we go. Alright. I kind of do like using, you know, I did use those double strands of yarn, and I think that works out well. All right, so this is what our little book looks like. Now remember, I was using a cardboard box as a scrap box. So now I have a way to just kind of, instead of pawing through a box, which made me nuts, I have a way to look at some of the scraps that I have and determine if I want to use them for a project. So that's one little signature. This is the second one. Painty papers, scrapbook papers, wrapping paper, some stenciled paper, cards. Here's something really cool that I like about binding this way. You can shift things up or down, right? So you can kind of shift all these papers and look at them really quickly. All right, and there's the third one. There we have a beautiful, isn't that pretty? That was from my friend Jody, a little card. And then we have some painty papers, and we do have a lot of smaller papers in this one. But again, we can shift them kind of up and down and take a good look at them. And then this is the last thing. This is from my beautiful friend Joy. Bunny. They're here and see my friends who have sent me things that are just so gorgeous, Lorraine, that I just can't get rid of. So there we go. Now, you say, well, how are you going to use that book? Let's suppose I'm working on something and I want to use some painty papers. Well, I can just grab that painty paper and take it right out of the book. If I want, you know, if I need something where I want to alter some of these tickets, I can pull it right out of the book. That's what makes this thing a really, really nice project, because now instead of pawing through a scrap box, you've got your scrap boxes in, you've got your scrap box in a book, which essentially is what this turns out to be. I'm going to add a little bit of, I'm going to add some sort of binding here, and then I will show you guys the absolute finished product in just a few minutes. Okay, friends, I have finished with my Scrapbox book. You can hear Kronk, he's getting fed downstairs. And I think it turned out really, really well. I did add a brad and a little binding onto my book. And this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see our signatures are all mixed up with funky inspirational papers. And again, the beauty of this book is if you see something that you like, you can just pull it out, because this is a midori style binding. Also, if you find something that you really like, you can just tuck that in, just like that. And so this gives me a way to see what I have as in the way of scrap stuff, but not have to paw through that scrap box. This just wasn't working for me. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I will be back with more tutorials about adding some beads, some handmade beads to the spines of your books. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll come see me again. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and for watching my videos. I appreciate it. Thank you.